Okay, so in this video we are gonna do rearranging formulas. Okay, so all this is if you're given a formula, so I'm just gonna say a plus b equals c. If I'm asked to rearrange this with b as the subject. Okay, so the subject, all that means is that your answer should be b equals. Okay, so subject means that this equals the rest of the equation. Okay, so we'll say in the question I gave you, C is the subject. Now we want to make B the subject. So if I write it out again here, A plus B equals C. Okay, and we want to make B the subject. We know we can bring A across, so we have B equals C minus A, because the A changes to a minus. Okay, so that's all this section is about. It's algebra. Normally, obviously, sometimes there's numbers. Most of the time, though, it's going to be letters. So if we do another quick example, if I say BC minus D equals A, okay, so this is an example, and I'm going to say make C the subject of the formula. Okay, so a tip as well when you're doing it, your first step, write out the equation again, and when you're doing it, write the subject in a different color. Okay, so now you know straight away you need to get C on its own. So now, first step is I'm going to bring across D. So if I bring that across, it's going to turn to a positive, so I'm going to have BC equals A plus D. Okay, and I must write this in a different color. So now we have BC equals A plus D. So our next step then is we need to bring across the B. So that leaves us with C equals A plus D. And because this BC was written right next to each other, it means they're multiplying. So when that comes across, it's A plus D all over B. And then that's our answer. Okay, we've rearranged it with C as the subject. We can do the same thing with another example, so I'll give you a slightly more difficult one, and then I'll leave you try one yourself. So if I say A plus, or A minus, not A equals, A equals B all over C plus BD, okay, and we want to make B the subject of the formula. Okay, so again we're going to write it out again. So A equals B all over C plus B times D. Okay, so from here we can see straight away that we have a problem. Okay, because in the last two that I went through, okay, so here B was on its own, here C was on its own. Now for this one we actually have two B's. Okay, so we can't have B equals on its own because we have two different B's. So we need to find a way of getting rid of one of them. Okay, so what we're going to do is our first step anyway is we don't want to have the fraction here. So to get rid of that, what we need to do is multiply across by c. Okay, so what we do for that is it's c multiplied by a equals c multiplied by b all over c plus c multiplied by b times d. Okay, so if we multiply those out, we get AC equals these two c's. So if we have b on its own and we so this b here, if we have b on its own and we multiply it by c and divide it by c, then we're still just left with b. Okay, so we can cancel those, and that's just going to equal b. And then this is going to be plus b c d. Okay, you can write those letters, so here and here, you can write those letters in any order you want because they're being multiplied by each other, so it doesn't matter the order that you write them. Okay, next what we need to do, so this is the hardest step to spot, I suppose. We have two b's here, we can't add them together because of the CD. We can't get rid of the CD because it would just come down below here and below here. So we need to think of some other way. Okay, and the way that we're going to do it is, if you think back to when you did factorizing, that's how we're going to do it. So what we can take out, so we can forget about the left hand side for a second, and we're just going to focus on this right hand side. If we have b plus bcd, what we can do is we can take b out of both sides. So if I take b out, I have b. And now what I do is I pick two things that I can multiply b by that will bring you back to this line. So if I have b multiplied by what will give me b, well then the answer is 1, because b times 1 is 1b, which is the same as just b. And then what do I need to multiply b by to get bcd? And the answer to that is plus cd. Okay, so if I multiplied out this line, I would get 1b plus bcd, which is the same as the line up there, which means I'm right. Okay, so now we can scroll down a bit and we can go back and write AC equals B times 1 plus CD. And now, because it's B multiplied by all of this, that can all come over to this side, and we have AC divided by 1 plus CD equals B. And now I've made B the subject. Okay? That's your answer. It doesn't matter that the B ended up on the right hand side. Okay, so it doesn't ever matter when you're told to make something the subject. You can write B equals, you can write equals B. They're both the same. They're both equally right. Okay, so you never have to worry about that. They can go on the left or the right. All that it has to be is on its own. That's the main thing. Okay, so I'll give you one to try now. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to give you y equals c minus ax all over B. And I'm going to ask you to make X the subject of the formula. Okay, so give that one a try, pause the video, go back to the other examples maybe, and give it a try. Once you have it done, then you can unpause it and we'll go through it. Okay, so we'll go through it now. So you have y equals c minus ax all over b. We're going to rewrite it out. Y equals c minus a times x, and that's all over b. So our first step is probably the easiest one to spot anyway, is that you bring the b across. Okay, if I bring that b across, it's going to become multiply. So then I have by equals c minus ax. Okay. Then what I need to do next, another one that's quite easy to spot, is, well, you have two choices. We can either bring over the ax, which is absolutely fine, or we can bring over the c. So what I'll do is I'll split it into two, and we can just do both answers, just in case you did either way. So I'm going to say by, this is going to be the part where I brought over c, so it's minus c equals minus ax, and this side is going to be by plus ax equals c. Okay, so they're the two different ways you could have went about it. So for this one on the left hand side, the last step that you have to do is you can bring across the minus a and make it divide. Okay, so if I bring that across, I have by minus c divided by minus a equals x, and that's a valid answer. Okay, just rewrite these in orange and here. Okay, so that's a valid answer. I'll show you this way now. The answers are going to look different, but once I show you one thing, they'll be the same. Okay, so for this one, we're going to bring across the by. Because we're bringing across both parts, we're just going to change the sign. If I was bringing across just the b or just the y, I'd have to change it to divide. Okay, but for this, we're going to have ax, x in orange, equals c minus by. And then our last step, we're going to bring across a c minus by all over a. Okay, so there are answers. They're both the same answer. They're both correct. The main thing is that you got either one of them. The difference is if I multiply this one by minus 1, I'll get this answer. So they're the exact same, it's just they're on opposite sides of the equal sign really. Okay, but they are both valid answers. I'll give you one more to try. It's going to be quite a similar one. Okay, so x equals y minus 2z all over 3. And obviously, because I wrote it in orange, we want to make z the subject of the formula. Okay, so I'll leave you pause the video here, give it one try, spend a few minutes on it, and see how you get on with it, and then if you get the right answer, or if you get an answer, unpause it and we'll go through it. Okay, so we'll go through the answer. So x equals y minus 2z all over 3. This one now has numbers in it for the first time, so it might make it a little bit easier. So we're going to bring the 3 up. So we have 3x equals y minus 2z. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to bring across the minus 2. Okay, either way is fine. So up here, like we had both ways, they're both correct. But for yourself, it's probably a little bit easier to get rid of the minus off of the subject as early as you possibly can. So then for that reason, I bring across the minus 2z. So then we have 3x plus 2z equals y. Okay, so it looks like you're going the wrong direction because now the 2z is in the middle. But we'll very quickly move that now. So we're going to move the 3x across. So then we have 2z equals y minus 3x. And now our last step is we're going to divide. We're going to bring the 2 across. So our final answer is z equals y minus 3x all over 2. Okay, so there are two answers, or that's our answer. And we have answers now to both of our questions. Okay, so we're going to do one more question. I'll give you quite a hard one now for this one, so one of the hardest ones that you can get. I'm going to do P equals QR, actually I'll change those letters slightly, X or all over X minus or. So that's the question, and we want to make or the subject of the formula. Okay, so pause it again, try this last question, and then we'll go through the answer. Okay, so we'll go through the answer. I'll rewrite it out. P equals x times r all over x minus r. Okay, so you can see this one is a bit of a problem, the same as the last one. So we're going to have to try and sort that out, okay? First step that I would do is I would bring across all of that. Okay, so I'll just, everything that's being divided, I'll bring it across to here and make it x minus r times p, and that's going to equal x r. Okay, so you can see now still we have two r's. Now I'm going to multiply out this side. So I'm going to say xp minus p r equals x r. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. We have them multiplied out. Next I'm going to bring this across to here to join the other POR, or the other XOR. So now we have XP equals X or plus P or. So now this one is starting to look very similar to our factorizing one from earlier. So we can say XP equals or times X plus P. Okay, because if I multiply that out, I get RX plus RP, which is, oh, I had them written the other way actually. So if I multiply them out, I'll get XOR plus POR. Okay, which is obviously exactly the same as up there. So we know that that's right. And then what we can do is we can bring that bracket across. So we have XP all over X plus P, and that all equals R. And then that is our final answer. Okay, so that is kind of a start on how you go about rearranging formulae in algebra.